They asked him.
Jai Jai Rama Om Sri Rama Jai Rama Jai Jai Rama Om. Take it a little that side. I moved it this way.
Okay, sir. It's okay.
All right. Now, yesterday we were reading 12th chapter. Bhakti Yoga. The Lord was showing different ways of approach, that is to worship Him with devotion. We read the we shall go through the entire sloka once again. Arjuna's first question: those devotees who ever steadfast worshipping you thus, and those again who worship the imperishable, the unmanifest, which of these are better versed in yoga? So Arjuna's question was whether Saguna worship or Nirguna worship is better. Saguna worship is the form which was standing in front of Arjuna, and Nirguna worship is the unmanifest, nameless, formless aspect of the divine. He wants to know which is better. Now the Lord is answering the question one after those who have fixed their mind in me and who ever steadfast and endowed with supreme Shraddha worship me, them do I consider perfect in yoga. Here, me can have both meanings. Me in this form or in my unmanifest form. In whatever way we approach Him, whether concentrating on His Saguna aspect or taking our mind away from the Saguna to Nirguna aspect. Whatever way we do, we are keeping our mind centered on Him, and by that way we are sure to be benefited. This must be done with extreme Shraddha. If this is done, the Lord says, I consider them perfect in yoga. But there is some ambiguity in this, that me can mean both aspects of the Lord. Here the commentator says the Lord is having the cosmos for His physical body. That is Saguna aspect. He is Parameshwara, Saguna Brahman. He rules remaining immanent in the universe. He is the Lord of yogis. His devotees are they who have dedicated themselves to His worship. They are free from attachment and angularities. Thought of the Lord alone dominates their hearts day and night. They live for service of the Lord. They are therefore perfect yogis. Here it almost feels that they refer to the Saguna aspect of the Lord, Saguna worship. And next slogan, but those who worship the imperishable, the indefinable, the unmanifest, the omnipresent, the unthinkable, the unchangeable, the immovable, the eternal. That is, he refers to the Nirguna aspect only. Having restrained all the senses, even-minded, everywhere engaged in the welfare of all beings, verily they also come unto me alone. This is Nirguna aspect. So, in both cases, they come to me alone. They say, he doesn't say which is better. Now he is coming to the point in the next one. But we notice that in this second one, Nirguna worship, he is putting certain conditions. Having restrained all the senses. So strict control of the senses is necessary for those who worship the Nirguna. They have to be even-minded everywhere. They must be engaged in the welfare of all beings. These are the restrictions imposed on them. But those who worship the Saguna also have to be under certain restrictions because they have to be loving everybody. They have to look upon all as the different forms of the Lord. Restrictions are also there. Now finally the Lord comes to say which is better. Greater is their difficulty whose minds are set on the unmanifest. For the goal of the unmanifest is very hard for the embodied to reach. Here comes the Lord clearly. Greater is their difficulty whose minds are set on the unmanifest. To think of the unmanifest without name or form is very difficult for the mind. It is easy for a mind to concentrate any form, any picture, any idol, but to fix it nowhere, where there is no form, no name, no simply space. It is very difficult. It means they have to eliminate all those forms that they see before them. This is not this. I don't want this form. I don't want that form. I don't want the form of human beings. I don't want the form of gods. You have to eliminate all these forms and finally reach the formless. That process, according to the Lord, and also by the sadhakas who have practiced that, is extremely difficult. Because for an embodied soul, all those who are here are embodied soul. For an embodied soul, think of something beyond the body is extremely difficult. But those who worship me, renouncing all actions in me, regarding me as a supreme goal, meditating on me with single-minded yoga. Again, but those who worship me, renouncing all actions in me, regarding me as a supreme goal, meditating on me with single-minded yoga. For them, whose thought is set on me, I become very soon the deliverer from the ocean of the mortal samsara. Now the question is, what does this me mean? when the Lord says me, does he refer to the body, his saguna aspect, or nirguna aspect again? Because he referred to the nirguna aspect as distinct from the saguna, we have to take this as also referring to the saguna. But let us see what the Lord says. The ignorant man who segregates himself from the whole, which is Brahman, invites complication and trouble to his earthly career. He, on the other hand, who attunes his personal life to the cosmic functioning, which is a sort of Ishvara, gains in Shreyas and gets into the plenitude supremely above the whole of birth and death. The ignorant man who segregates himself from the whole, which is Brahman, that is, one who denies the saguna aspect and wants to reach the nirguna aspect alone. That is, he wants to segregate himself from he himself is part of the saguna, but he wants to segregate himself and reach the nameless and formless, attributeless Brahman. He is inviting trouble for himself, but according to him, it is very difficult to reach. Whereas he, on the other hand, attunes to his personal life to the cosmic functioning, which is a part of Ishvara. That is, he mingles with the cosmic aspect of the Lord, saguna aspect of the Lord, and worships the Lord through the saguna. It is easier for him to do so. There are harbingers of the attainment of Godhood. He in whom bhakti is surging with fervor has already come to the threshold of divinity. Know it for certain that he will very soon get into union with Ishvara. It is easy to develop bhakti for the saguna aspect of the Lord. And when we lose ourselves in the Lord, in the highest stage of our bhakti, we automatically experience the nirguna also. It is the responsibility of the saguna God to take us to the nirguna also. So, according to him, it is better we worship the saguna aspect of God and thus reach the Purushottama stage. The Lord's ways are, fix your mind on me alone, let your thoughts dwell in me, you will hereafter live in me alone. Of this there is no doubt. Now, the approach to develop your bhakti is given here. Fix your mind on me alone. Have a particular form of the Lord, or consider the entire universe as the saguna aspect of the Lord, and fix it on the entire universal aspect. Oh, it may be difficult, so many devotees select or choose one aspect, that is one avatar's form as their Ishta, Lord Krishna or Lord Rama, Shiva or any other god, or their own Guru's form, and concentrate on that form. They pour all their love and devotion on that particular form, and worshipping such, they gradually progress. Let your thoughts dwell in me alone. When we give all our heart and soul to that particular form, naturally, always we will be thinking of that form. The easy method to be thinking of that form, according to the advice given by our beloved Papa and the general teachings he has been giving all these years, is to take to the chanting of God's name continuously. The chanting of the God's name will make us remember Him always. That means our thought will dwell on him always. You will hereafter live in me alone. When we keep our mind constantly dwelling on the Lord himself, naturally we will be living in him. We will be feeling his presence always, and we will be living in him. Of this there is no doubt. There is no doubt about it. When we chant Ram Nam, actually what happens? In the beginning, when the mind is so gross, it may not be possible for us to have any experience, but by gradual practice, by persistent practice, and when the mind gets more and more purified, we will be able to see clearly what is before us, what this world is. In the ignorant state, we see the world as all the things that we see as separate things, nothing common in between. A tree is separate, a building is separate, a human being is separate, everything is separate. We thought everything is separate in itself and supporting by itself. By chanting Ram Nam, we start feeling that unifying force behind these names and forms. Gradually that becomes clearer and clearer, and we see that unifying force as the all-pervading reality. And all these names or forms are one unit, that is the Saguna form of the Lord. All these names and forms belonging to one form, with the body of God, you can say. They are not separate, they are belonging to one body. And that too, all these names and forms belonging to one body are supported by the Purusha or the substratum, the Nirguna aspect of the Lord. That it is support for these names and forms. So we start seeing unity in diversity. Whereas we were seeing only diversity before, we start seeing the unifying force behind these names and forms. That is the advantage, or that is benefit we get by chanting God's name. Whatever was found, whatever we saw as separate things, we see the unifying force behind them. We do not consider them as separate beings. We look upon the entire thing as one unit. So the sadhana is fix your mind on me alone. We can also add here by chanting my name constantly. That can be easily added to this. Let your thoughts dwell in me. You will hereafter live in me alone. Of this there is no doubt. That is why Bharat Papa used to say, when you start chanting Ram Nam and the purification of your mind starts, there will be no need for you to ask anybody to clear your doubts. You don't have to wait for outside agency to guide you. The guidance will come from within. Everything will open itself gradually, and you will see things clearer and clearer. As example, suppose this is midnight. We don't see anything outside except darkness. We don't see even the people sitting here. But somebody brings a light or some torch is flashed from behind, then we start seeing things clearly. That means the purification has taken place in our mind, and we have started seeing the truth clearly, experiencing the truth clearly. And the more the mind is purified, the better will be our vision, clearer will be our vision. When the light becomes stronger and stronger, we see everything very clearly. We see what is what. We see all people are sitting here, people are talking, this is a tree, there's a building there, there's a lorry there. All these things will be clearly seen. We will be able to see what is what. That is the way Ramanam works in us. Now, the Lord is so gracious, He wants us to fix our mind on Him by whatever way we adopt, as we are doing here by chanting Ram Nam. He says another alternative. If you are not able to fix your mind steadily on me, then seek to reach me by Abhyasa Yoga. He gives you another alternative, Abhyasa Yoga. Many people say, I am not able to chant Ram Nam constantly. What shall I do? Then we usually say, you have to chant Ram Nam. That is the only way to keep your mind centered on God. If you don't do it naturally, you cannot get the benefit. But the Lord here gives an alternative. This is practice Abhyasa Yoga. Let us see what Abhyasa Yoga is. Abhyasa Yoga means change our habit gradually. The mind that was habituated to thinking of worldly things must be made to think of God by gradual practice. That is what Abhyasa Yoga is. If you are unable even to practice, Abhyasa Yoga, it doesn't want to. If you are not able even to practice Abhyasa Yoga, you intend on doing action for my sake. Even by performing actions for my sake, you will attain perfection. He doesn't say what Abhyasa Yoga is. This is Abhyasa Yoga. Let us see what the commentator says. Staunch is that devotion of the sadhaka which does not deviate from the Lord. Wavering is that devotion which oscillates between God and the world. Through constant practice, the mind has to be weaned away from the world. Gradually practice, take the mind away from the world and fix it on the feet of the Lord. In the Abhyasa Yoga, which is practice ceaselessly until the mind is permanently reclaimed from baseness. The impossible can be made possible through constant practice. Nature can be changed by nature, it being the most effective means. So, by constant practice, train the mind to think of the Lord. Now, if you feel that you are not able to practice Abhyasa Yoga, the Lord gives you another alternative. If you are unable even to practice Abhyasa Yoga, be you intent on doing all actions for my sake. He says, don't worry about Abhyasa Yoga. Don't strain yourself. Do one thing. Whatever you do it for my sake. As if it is much easier than the other one. This is also equally difficult if you want to do it properly. It means every action you do, you must be able to remember the Lord. Oh Lord, this act is being done by your power as dedication to you, as seva to you. That constant remembrance must be there in any case. And the feeling that the work is done by His power through this body and as seva to Him. Then only it becomes fully dedicated work. If you are unable even to practice Abhyasa Yoga, be you intent on doing actions for my sake. Even by performing actions for my sake, you will attain perfection. That is another way of attaining perfection. Do everything for my sake. Even taking a morsel of food, take it for my sake. I am taking it for my Lord. Feel that you are feeding the Lord. The Lord Himself is feeding the Lord. By Lord's power, this hand is feeding the Lord Himself. That way, see the Lord in everything, in the action, in the food you take. Any other action, not merely eating. In a cup of water, when you are taking a cup of water, see that you are doing it for the Lord's sake. That way you dedicate all your actions to the Lord. Here the commentator says, force of habit is too strong to be altered or curbed. It drags a man along its own way. Even such a bent can be turned to advantage. While the beat is allowed to have its way, while the bent is allowed to have its way, it is utilized in the service of the Lord. A talkative man, for example, may go on talking of God instead of worldly things. Talkativeness is a habit, and it is very difficult to change that habit. But if he really wants to change that habit, he can, instead of talking about worldly things, he can start talking about God. So that will be very beneficial to him and will become his sadhana. A talkative man, for example, may go on talking about God instead of worldly things. An active man may work hard for the glory of his Maker and not for mammon. A man who wants to be always working, he can change his work as dedication to God instead of for making money. When he becomes an instrument of the Lord in this way, no work taints him. His mind becomes gradually purified. Godhood is reached. So that way, even our so-called habits can be changed to God's service. All these require constant practice. And the foundation for this is our intense aspiration to realize God. Then only we will be able to transform our habits into sadhana. Now, another question is raised here. There are men who work only for themselves. They are not able to feel that they are serving the Lord. Is there no way out for such men from attachment to karma? Now the way is shown here. If you are not able to do even this, that is, dedicate your work, whatever work you do, any movement in your body, if you cannot dedicate it to me, if you are not able to do even this, then taking refuge in me, abandon the fruits of all actions with self-subdued. This is the last answer he is giving us. Even if you are not able to dedicate all your actions to God, you can do one thing. You can say, I offer the fruits of all my actions to the Lord. Whatever work I do, I offer the fruits of my actions to the Lord. Even this much is sufficient if you do. Here is another word added here, self-subdued. With our ego strong in us, we will not be able to offer the fruits of our actions to the Lord. Because when we are working, the sense that I am working, I am working for getting the fruits of my own actions. So it is difficult to say that fruit should go to God unless the I becomes weaker and weaker. Ultimately, that little self is completely subdued. Means you become egoless. Then only you can perfectly say all this action, all the fruits of these actions be dedicated to God. Then only you will be able to say. There also by sadhana, the ego has to be eliminated. You have to become perfectly selfless, egoless. All these appear to be simple. The Lord has made it simpler and simpler. But when we actually practice it, it requires a lot of effort on our part. And that will not appear to be so easy as we hear. But all the same, if we practice it, we will know it is very enjoyable. The practice itself is enjoyable. And the more we practice, the more joy we will get. When we dedicate our actions to God, we will be feeling so free in our mind. The commentator here says, among virtues, unselfishness is the most paying. Godhood is the reward for complete self-abnegation. When the sadhaka established in unselfishness, meditates on God, he hastens his union with Him. But selfishness dies hard. Selfishness dies hard. It is very difficult to eradicate the little self. It persists in many an unknown subtle form and causes hindrance to meditation. That hindrance has to be eliminated by abhyasa yoga. For anything, effort is necessary, that is abhyasa. Abhyasa yoga has to be brought in everywhere. Practice, practice, practice. And the practice does not mean only our effort sitting in the puja room for 1 or 2 hours. Our practice must go on all the 24 hours of the day. But whatever we are thinking of, whatever we do, whomever we meet, we must be able to maintain this attitude all the 24 hours. So the practice should go on, not merely for an hour or 2 during the day, but all the time. Failing in that, all actions inherent in man may be performed for the glory of the Lord. If you are not able to do this Abhyasa Yoga properly, the dedication is to be practiced. But if the selfishness be so deep-rooted that a man does not desire to get out of it, or is incapable of outgrowing it, even for him there is a way out. He finds it difficult to remove his selfishness. He finds it difficult to offer even the fruits of the actions to the Lord. The earthbound man is not prepared to abandon the fruit of his actions. Rather, he wants to gather more and yet more fruits of his work. He ought to be told that the fruits of his karma will last long with him if he lived a life of self-control. He ought to be told that the fruits of his karma will last long with him if he lived a life of self-control. He must be told next that more profit would come to him if he relied on God. That is, he has to be induced to give up his selfishness. He has to be gradually told that the fruit will remain with him longer if he dedicated them to God. Then he has to be told that the more profit will come to him if he relied on God. So these are to be told by the Guru himself, or rather experience will teach him. Thirdly, he must be induced into the belief that by offering a portion of his income to God and through God to his children, his income is bound to be multiplied. That is, he is to be induced to. Thirdly, he must be induced into the belief that by offering a portion of his income to God and through God to his children, his income is bound to be multiplied. That is what I tell some of our friends who come here when they say their business is not prospering in spite of all their efforts. I tell them, you take our Papa as one of the shareholders. You pray to him to become a partner in your company, and once he becomes a partner, he will naturally see that the company runs well and makes profit. And by the end of the year, when you settle the account, keep a share for him and offer it to him. That is, to any institution doing charities. That way, the company will prosper, make money, and Papa will also have his share in due course. So, we must bring God in the picture. He learns by experience that selfishness is more. He learns by experience that selfishness is. He learns by experience that selfishness is more paying when it is based on selflessness. Selfishness is more paying when it is based on selflessness. An effort at abandoning the fruits of action is to be instilled into the ordinary man gradually in this way. In course of time, he comes to learn that supra-mundane life comes of self-denial and not of self-seeking. He will learn by experience that the more selfless he becomes, the more happier he can be. Now he told you how to dedicate your work, how to do the usual work and make it our sadhana. Now the Lord proceeds further. Better indeed is knowledge than abhyasa. Better than knowledge is meditation. Better than meditation is the renunciation of the fruit of action. Peace immediately follows renunciation. Suddenly he stops the activities of work, etc. and talks about abhyasa, knowledge, meditation and the renunciation. Ritualistic religious practice is called abhyasa. That's what he call abhyasa here. Ritualistic religious practice is called abhyasa. Abhyasa can refer to our sadhana also. Regular chanting of God's name, regular prayers, regular reading of scriptures can all come under abhyasa. Many a man does it mechanically without any feeling behind it. That is the danger in this. They become regular, something like a ritual. We have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, sit in the puja room, do this chanting, do that chanting, read Gita Sandesh chapter daily, and we complete it. But our mind will be wandering here and there. Means there is absolutely no concentration. It is just done as a ritual only. There is absolutely no benefit to be accrued from that. With him, it is a social habit involuntarily picked up, falling in line with what the others are doing. It's nothing more than that. Others are doing such and such a thing, so I am also doing. He might have started this with good intentions, and he might have had concentration for 1 or 2 days. But gradually, when the fire of aspiration becomes cooler and cooler, subdued, he loses his concentration and the routine goes on without real concentration. Conventionally, a pious man goes to the temple, stands before the symbol of the deity, pays homage with folded palms, turns round in all directions, palms remaining folded as they are, prostrate before the deity, and goes home with the thought that he has discharged his duty to the Maker. This is what they do. As a very pious man, he leaves home early in the morning, have his bath in the temple tank, goes to the temple. As a very pious man, he stands before the deity with folded arms, prays, don't know what he exactly prays. Then he comes back home, feels contented that he has done his duty. But what has he gained by such a ritual? He knows nothing of the principle underlying his actions. If we had prayed to the deity, at least that he should remember him constantly, he should take his little self unto his universal self and make him realize his oneness with him. If that little prayer is sufficient. But he does it simply as a routine without any feeling in his mind. There is another man who is not given to this habitual formation, but who knows theoretically that the cognition of the divinity should commence at the temple, but that it should not end there. He is a little wiser man. That adoration ought to be extended in all directions to ought. That is, this second man's act of understanding. The principle is better than the first man's. A third man sits at appointed hours and meditates on the truth that it is divinity that is manifesting itself and the various beings that he contacts every day. What this man does is better still because he attempts to get fixed in the truth that he has intellectually grasped. He doesn't go to the temple or anywhere. He sits in his own place, in his own house, and meditates that everything is a form of the divine. The Lord himself has manifested as innumerable names and forms. That way he keeps his mind centered on God, accepts everything seen in the universe as a manifestation of God. See the difference in the three people. A fourth man gives a practical shape to his understanding by devotedly sharing with others whatever good things he has procured by his personal efforts. It's another sadhaka. A fourth man gives a practical shape to his understanding by devotedly sharing with others whatever good things he has procured by his personal effort. He is not doing any meditation this time. He has by his effort procured many things and now he is sharing them with others. Because of the renunciation that he practices, this man stands foremost among the sadhakas. Now, those first three did not have a tinge of renunciation in them. The first two had no devotion. The third one at least had some sort of devotion and they were thinking of God. These three had no tinge of renunciation, whereas the fourth man, though he was not talking about God or meditating on God, he was prepared to renounce what he had obtained by his own work. The renunciation of, that means sharing whatever he had with others. Here, heartfelt abhyasa, right knowledge, and good meditation are all implicitly contained in this holy act of his. This renunciation itself shows he had tried to understand what things were, he had tried to keep his mind in the right direction, and he knows that everything is a manifestation of God. So all these three things are contained in this very act of renunciation. That peace immediately follows renunciation is self-evident. That peace immediately follows renunciation is self-evident. When, say, I have procured so many things by my effort yesterday. I collected valuable materials, say some precious stones and some cloth and some eatables, all these were brought here. Now I sit here, call all those who are going about there to come and take whatever they want, or I give them whatever they deserve, freely. At the same time, looking upon them as God himself. Now this act of renunciation contains all the three. My devotion to God, my knowledge that everything is God. And by this act of renunciation, immediately peace fills my heart. That is, in the verse he said, renunciation immediately brings peace. Renunciation and surrender. immediately bring peace to us. Here we are talking about renunciation. The act of renunciation immediately brings peace to us. That peace immediately follows renunciation is self-evident. A few dogs fight among themselves for a few pieces of bread strewn about. Evidently, there is no peace among them. Elsewhere, a crow calls its comrades to share some scattered rice. They flock and eat peacefully because of their spirit of mutual help, which is equivalent to the spirit of renunciation. This is an object example. This is an objective example. See, very simple. When we have something with us and we are trying to eat, others come to grab it and we start fighting. So, there is no peace. Whereas, when we have sufficient and we eat, when we call others also to share with us, all eat together happily. See what a difference. Everyone has peace there. Subjectively, a yogi can feel how much of peace and exuberance there are in giving away and sharing with others than in grabbing and jealously keeping things all to oneself. Renunciation is the key to higher life. So let us not hold the things for ourselves. Let us keep whatever is necessary for us and give away whatever is extra so that others can make use of them and enjoy them. The very act of renunciation gives us great joy and peace. We'll continue tomorrow. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. We reached only so much as we did yesterday. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram.
Oh, okay.